Don't think about it too hard. Okay.
I'm just doodling now.
Okay, now what I want you to write down is, in reality, what does get prioritized first? What do you, in real world, what do you put, what's the thing that matters most, what do you take care of first before everything else? And do they match up? So, how similar are those lists? Okay, so the list that we first wrote, okay, so that was self-generated, I haven't prompted anyone, that was like, this is what you think is the way things should be done, right? So we have this information, but then in reality of our lives it doesn't look like this. Now what I'm going to refer to, I'm going to use health in a sort of a bigger picture. There's a lot more nuances, but I'm going to use it because it's something that kind of everyone's sort of familiar with. I'm more using it as an example, okay? So if I made a statement that if you are healthy, you'll do everything in your life better, would anyone have would anyone think that I was totally wrong about that?
Potentially. It comes at a compromise of something else, doesn't it?
Okay, so...
Sorry, I didn't mean to challenge your statement straight away.
Look, everyone has their own opinions, and opinion is never wrong, because I'm not actually in the business of trying to convince people that I'm right and they're wrong.
Okay.
I'm actually more interested in you coming up with what's a good idea for you and prioritizing that, because I really don't try to tell people what they should do. You have to decide that for yourself, because I'm not the expert in your life. You understand what your life looks like, and ultimately you're the one who has to make the best decisions for your life. So it's just getting to that point of making sure that we are potentially making the best decisions.
Okay.
So what I would say with life, so this is the other sort of thing I'd say in terms of health. Okay. So if we're the thing that has to take care of all the things we have to do, like whether it's look after the kids, do our job, deal with people in a management role, any of those sort of things, having personal relationships and all that stuff. So there's certain things we know from sort of looking after yourself, if you exercise, if you eat well, things like this, that has certain sort of physiological and psychological effects on your body that probably put you in a better position to deal with life. Now I'm not saying it's the answer in itself, and absolutely I'm not saying that is that's all you have to do, there's a lot more to it. But it puts you, if you're the thing that has to take care of all these responsibilities, doing it from a position of strength is probably going to mean that you'll be more efficient at that. You can still disagree with that if you want. Okay. So I want to give a little bit of context to this. So I think like at the start, so I was talking about human fundamentals. So there's certain things, like I said, how we are built. And this goes back to, there's certain characteristics we share with actually the first inceptions of what humans came from, which would be, we've got so you're looking at evolution, okay? So this is where we are here, modern humans, and we're about roughly 100,000 years old. Now you can see here what's showing is like how our brain has increased over that time, and that sort of evolution, this is when we get fully upstanding. Now you can see this is over a total of 5 million years, that's how fast we've evolved. You can see this sort of big increase over here, but like particularly when we look at brain size. So what would have happened here, so what our brain would have been, we're essentially animals then, so we would have had 100% instinctual mind then. Okay, so as the brain gets bigger, what increases is our ability to reason, cognitive side of our brain, which is what we do most of our thinking with. But we're not losing anything, so this thing of instincts just remains with us the whole time. So we have that sort of more of this is something how we look. So this instinctual mind, which was the main driver here, is still a big part of this modern human here. Okay, and then even physiologically, you can see there's certain things that our bodies were designed to evolve to do a certain set of things, and there's lots of different things that are like everything's evolved feeds into everything else. Okay. Now our instinctual system. What do you think our instincts are for? Survival. That is like the absolute bare number one goal of the instincts, okay? So that is, and how that looks is its protection of the individual ourselves, and then also the continuation of the species. Now, like I know there's sort of anthropology and things like this, but I am going to get to where I'm going to go, okay? Now the big thing so over those 5 million years, is this, and this is still something that's true today, is we're looking for these three elements can sort of be interchanged. So it's preserve energy, adapt to stress, and then homeostasis. Homeostasis is when we're in a state of balance. And our body is always trying to get in homeostasis, and that means that we are expending the least amount of energy possible, and that might mean that we adapt to whatever stress we're under, so we spend less energy, so we remain in balance. So they're sort of interchangeable. But these three things here are absolutely fundamental to how humans are. So what I want to particularly pay attention to is energy preservation. So if this is a fundamental thing that we are designed to do, and it's expend energy is out of necessity rather than we think it's just a nice thing to do, this is what we're going to focus on. So if you look at now, so I want to kind of relate that in terms of how fast the world has developed around us. So if we've developed over 5 million years, with like this inception now about 100,000 years old, this is, we're all aware of how much faster the world is developing, and it's increasing how fast it's developing. So this is a simple metric. It's about transistors per microprocessor. First one 1971 to 2300. By 2017, 10 billion. So you can see, like, in terms of like the exponential way in which the world is developing, and like I said, I know this is one metric, but you can look over at a number of different things. Things have changed pretty fast, and I think we can sort of see this. Now, if we're designed this sort of these fundamental systems, which are, as we can see, 5 million years old, how do they interact with how the world is today? So what are the types of things that have changed? So, as pertaining to health, can anyone guess what is the first time this has happened in human history, as specifically with health?
First time what happened?
That something has changed, that like through the course of all of our history, this thing has never happened before, but in more recent times, it's the first time this has happened.
Life expectancy has gone down?
So it is actually just started to happen in America, but no, actually life expectancy is growing.
Oh.
Okay. So this has never happened before. So now 13% of the population, 2014, 13% of the world's population was overweight, and 9% was underweight. Now there's certain things that go into this that we have, so if we've gone through our entire existence expecting to always be hungry, there's certain things that have developed around that. So what has changed in terms of our lifestyle? So we've become more sedentary, so our energetic expenditure is far less. Our food sources have changed, and way more processed food. And what this means for us, even let's say behind sugar, okay, so like what the source of sugar we would have had years and years ago, would have been fruit, things like this. These are things that happen seasonally, didn't happen that often. They're an easy energy source, easy to digest, gives you fast energy. So we've evolved to gorge on sugar, because we wouldn't have been able to get it, so it wasn't a problem. The difference is now is that it's hard to get away from it. So it's an understanding that this is why people will we are absolutely wired to sort of get stuck into sugar. I'm sure everyone can relate to that. And then even with how we store fat. So we're designed to store fat when we have an excess of food, because we go through lean, we would have been used to going through lean times and then times of plenty. So we evolved, we become very good at storing fat. The problem is now we don't have any lean times. So these are things to sort of help understand how we're hardwired to do particular things physiologically and also psychologically. Okay, so how do we stop these things? Okay, so if you think about your mind and almost in a duality sort of way, okay, we have our instinctual mind and our cognitive mind. And our instinctual mind is like an ape, okay? So we can do things, and if I take an example of anyone doing New Year's resolutions, where they're going to put a lot of things into practice, and then how those gone, so we've got to look at how we're doing these things. So if we understand that instinctually we're wired, okay, number one, to preserve energy, then if we're looking at something that is difficult, our instant reaction, this is no thought process, our reaction is that is difficult, I don't want to do it. So has anyone experienced them sort of knowing that they should do something, and the mental gymnastics we'll do to what's the reasons we can't do it, or the barriers we put up not to do it? So that's your instincts in motion now. That's the voice sort of telling you, no, it's grand, you don't need to do it, you can do it tomorrow, whatever it is. Okay? So So using willpower is a short-term solution. So willpower is if you're running a marathon and you hit the wall the last 3 kilometers, whatever it is, and you sort of run through that. But willpower is that even though we're under duress, we still just force through. So we're forcing ourselves to do it. So, you know, in those Januaries, the New Year's resolution, potentially we're doing dry Jan because we've got nuts over Christmas, and then it's like I'm going to go to the gym 5 times a week, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. So it becomes this quite night and day scenario where our life looked like this one second, and then we've gone to this massive extreme of like, I'm going to make myself do this thing. And maybe we do get the benefits, that feeling good, things like this, but then we're not doing any of the stuff that we like doing, and then we feel like we're denying ourselves, and then it becomes a pain in the ass. I'm going to go to the gym, so I'm tired tonight, and as it goes on, and actually, like in the fitness industry, gym models are predicated on this. So their model is based on you signing up to a membership in January, and then not going to the gym for the rest of the year. So, so this is one way to try and do it, because this thing of like forcing yourself to do it, you have to understand this is essentially, this instinctual side of you is as strong as an ape. So an ape is 5 times stronger than a human. So even though it might keep you going for a while, ultimately, if you're just doing something under duress and you have not built up a real understanding or really convince yourself that you have to do this, then you won't do it. It will drop off. So willpower gives way. So the other way is that you can, by understanding your instinctual system, how it works, what triggers are, is that you can manage it. So how you manage your instincts is, so first of all, you have to sort of weigh up what you're doing. So is that what you're doing, is it a good idea? And this means, like, so to really sort of think, you know, we've done our list there, so we know what we think. We all think certain things are a good idea, but it's like, why aren't we doing these things? So it's convincing ourselves at a deep level that what we are doing is a good idea. We've all seen the film Inception, right? Right, so that was all predicated that you couldn't make someone do something they didn't want to do. They had to think it was a good idea themselves. And then you've got to start thinking about, you know, in the same way all of you do, I'm sure professionally, how you set goals. So it's not about the big goal has to happen tomorrow. It's you build up to these things, and then so what are how are you setting your goals? And it's like, you know, like I said, I'm just speaking about health now. But how long do you want to be healthy for? Is it for the rest of your life? What's that going to look like? So you're setting your bigger goals and then bringing it down to your medium goals and your short goals. And I'm a big believer in incremental change that doesn't overwhelm you, doesn't feel like it's like such a change from the norm that it's very hard to sort of keep up with, but that tends to be the way we try to go about things. It's kind of extremes, we're extreme people. And then making the correlations. So when you do these things you're doing, and it can be this, I don't know if anyone has ever sort of read anything about developing habits, so they talk about like making one small change and how those things can affect everything else, like the pebble in the pond sort of metaphor. So as you correlate the work that you do with how you're feeling, you start feeding into this instinctual reward system, which is then believing that the work that you're doing when you're looking at things in a wider sense, rather than I have got something difficult to do right now, I don't want to do it. It's like, this is difficult to do, but the payoff is this, 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 and this. Then as you start feeling better, those instincts will start working with you to the point where if you do it long enough, is that you just decide that something is a good idea, then you'll be able to just do it because you understand that the positives in this outweigh the immediate negatives, or negatives if you want to call it. And this is the juice worth the squeeze. So I don't know if I'll give you an example of like quite a profound one. I don't know, does anyone listen to the Joe Rogan podcast? No. Okay. Okay, so he went on this big long rant about how he has convinced himself that doing difficult things is good for him. Now it doesn't matter what it is, his connection that he has convinced himself is just facing adversity makes him grow as a person, so doing anything difficult is worth it for him. So that's like a pretty powerful thing to have, but now you don't always have to think like as big as that, but he's built this sort of strong sort of connection. So he's now got this sort of situation where he sees something difficult, it's like, great, this is a chance for me to grow and become a better person, whatever that is to him. So, given the context of this, what I do at the Human Movement is is first of all develop this framework for how we're making decisions. Now, I've spoken about health today, but this framework for making decisions applies to a lot more things than we actually know of. Because with our instincts trigger all kinds of decisions for us. Now, these decisions are going on, but most of the time we're unaware of them. And they can pertain to many things. So I've worked with people on relationships, I've worked with people developing assertiveness, I've worked with people to lose weight, I've worked with people just trying to get healthier, I've worked with people trying to overcome anxiety and depression. Because all of those things, their roots all come in the decision making and how you're perceiving the world. So what we do at the Human Movement is that we develop this framework for how we're thinking about stuff. And then, like anything, so we all know, as we sort of demonstrated at the start, is that we all know things are a good idea, but then it's putting it into practice and making things habitual. So habits are, is that when it becomes something where, same way you learn how to tie your lace or go to the toilet, is that you no longer think about it, that is just the way that you do stuff. And it might sound sort of long-winded at the start, but it's like any kind of skill. So you're building a skill in terms of, first of all, deep understanding of how thoughts are formed, things like this, and then applying it, so this just becomes the way that you do stuff, and that you're stripping away a lot of the stuff that doesn't help you and tends to muddy the waters, and you're being more objective, you're becoming that manager for yourself, and making generally, and I don't think it's sort of nuts to say objective decision making tends to be better decision making, so you're making this optimal type of decision making. So that's it. So if you would like to ask me any questions, feel free.
I don't know about questions, but there's lots to think about.
Yeah, well, I want to be really clear, so this is a piece of the puzzle. And it's just, I think you can't ignore stuff, because there's certain things that we do, we all have reactions. So, if someone slaps you in the face, you slap them back, or someone does something, we say something mean to them, then we regret it. We go out and have those extra 4 or 5 pints next morning and say, why did I do that? There's machinations and things that are in us behind all of this stuff. And I'm not saying it's the only thing, there can be a lot of various different things feeding into it, but these are the fundamental things that are in every human. And it goes a long way to explain sometimes why we do a lot of stuff without thinking about it, because like I said, there's decisions been made. Everything you do in life is a decision, but we're unaware of the majority of them. And sometimes we can make instinctive decisions, or say things like how feelings are generated and stuff like this, and then our thought process stems from that initial feeling, rather than acknowledging it and looking where it's coming from. This can sort of really change sort of how you're sort of perceiving stuff and how you're doing stuff.
Would you say you're a life coach? I don't know much about any of that work. Is that how you?
I would say behavioural coach.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, I mean, the thing with I've never sort of spoken to a life coach or anything like this, but actually, what my aim here is for people to become their own life coach.
Yeah.
Because when you're developing, I think, like I said, I really try and avoid. I hate saying to people, you should do this. First of all, you're sort of saying you're doing things wrong, which again will cause actually an instinctual response to someone saying, what are you saying?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's but understanding yourself and sort of understanding there's a logical way that things work, then help you to make the best decisions for you. And like I said, I'm not the expert in your life. I have no idea what your life is.
Guiding.
Yeah, I would say facilitating as well.
Yeah.
So it's but I'm always looking for, when I work with clients, is that I'm looking for them not to need me. That's what I want. I was like, you start away, and then the more and more you sort of take on the principles, then the less you need to speak to someone, because you're actually able to sort things out for yourself. Maybe you go to seek supplementary information, but in terms of the decision-making process, streamlined, and you're making better decisions for yourself rather than having all this sort of turmoil and becoming more accountable to yourself.